Every morning, you water your plants. It feels like care. But that moisture clinging to the leaves is a 9-hour countdown to fungal infection. And that's only the beginning of what this habit is costing you. There is a quiet satisfaction in stepping into the garden with a watering can, just as the sun begins to rise. For millions of us, this early morning ritual represents the ultimate act of responsible plant care. It feels disciplined, thoughtful, and deeply satisfying, a peaceful moment to nourish your plants before the heat of the day takes over. You see the soil turn dark and rich, and it feels like the perfect start to their day. It is an instinct born of genuine love for growing things. But this comforting habit, passed down for generations, hides a silent conflict with the very plants we try to protect. When we splash water over our gardens in the early morning, we leave tiny droplets resting on the leaves. To our eyes, this looks like fresh dew. To microscopic fungal spores, it is an invitation. Many common plant pathogens require a continuous film of free water on the leaf surface to germinate and penetrate the delicate plant tissue. For devastating invaders like powdery mildew, leaf spot, and botrytis, the magic number is often 9 hours. If a leaf stays wet for this critical stretch, the protective outer barrier of the plant fails. While we might assume the rising morning sun will quickly dry the foliage, early morning humidity often does the exact opposite. It blankets the garden, slowing down evaporation and stretching the leaf wetness window just long enough for spores to wake up and burrow inward. By trying to refresh our plants before the heat of the day, we inadvertently create the exact, prolonged dampness these pathogens need to thrive. What felt like a nurturing morning ritual becomes a biological trap. As the morning sun climbs, a second silent conflict begins in the soil. The very air starts to work against you. Between 10 in the morning and 4 in the afternoon, rising temperatures and drying winds trigger peak evaporation. When we water during this danger window, physics takes over, regardless of our good intentions. Spraying water into this hot, dry daytime air causes a massive share of the moisture to vanish directly into the atmosphere. Federal research shows that under extreme conditions, nearly 40% of applied water evaporates before the roots can absorb a single drop. It forces us to ask a different question. It is no longer about how much water we use, but whether that water can survive long enough to actually matter. The solution requires no expensive equipment, only a simple shift in timing. Waiting until the early evening, after temperatures begin to drop, changes the entire dynamic. In these cooler hours, the evaporative pressure of the daytime air vanishes. This opens a quiet 8 to 10 hour window overnight, allowing the soil to absorb and retain moisture without the constant threat of evaporation. The water stays exactly where it is needed most, remaining available to the plant throughout the night. It is a cost-free behavioral adjustment that gardeners can put into practice tonight, turning the soil into a cooperative partner. Beneath the surface, your plants are actively learning from the choices you make. When you water lightly every morning, moisture only penetrates the top few centimeters of soil. Roots respond by staying shallow, huddled near the surface where the moisture sits. This makes them fragile, entirely dependent on your daily presence. But when you apply water deeply and less frequently, soaking the soil 6 to 12 inches down, you teach the roots to explore. They stretch downward, anchoring themselves into a cool, reliable reservoir. You are building a resilient, self-sufficient plant architecture from the ground up. We often kill our plants with kindness. Overwatering is the single most common cause of plant death worldwide, driven by a simple misunderstanding of plant behavior. When leaves droop under the hot afternoon sun, we assume they are thirsty. In reality, this temporary wilt is a natural self-defense mechanism against heat. Instead of rushing for the watering can, test the soil yourself. Push your finger 2 inches below the surface, right where the active roots live. If that layer feels damp, your plant is perfectly fine. This simple diagnostic check takes the guesswork out of gardening. Applying that water requires a delivery method that matches this precision. Shifting your setup to the soil line, using drip irrigation or soaker hoses, targets the root zone directly. This simple mechanics change keeps the leaves completely dry, removing the risks associated with overhead spraying. Because water goes only where it is needed, total usage drops by 30 to 50% compared to standard sprinklers. It is not about complicating your routine, but upgrading your delivery. Transitioning to a dedicated soil-level system makes your gardening efforts smarter, more targeted, and far more rewarding. Working with nature's rhythm, rather than your own schedule, changes everything. One simple shift in timing unlocks a resilient, thriving garden. What will you change next? Share below.